YouTube people. Today, we're going to dive into kind of the state of grading post-national. I have some thoughts on some things I saw and some conversations I had at the show. And we have gem rate numbers that came out a few days ago that I'm obviously late on because of the national coverage and travel and all that sort of thing. So we'll kind of wrap that into this video as well. So a little bit of national, a little bit of grading, but all through the lens of third-party grading. So let's start with we'll end with the gem rate numbers. Let's start with just some general, I'm going to kind of like run through each company with some thoughts, some things that I heard, and that sort of stuff. Just to head off the tag bots, they weren't at the national because they don't care about sports cards. SGC, the booth was not very busy. There was not a lot of foot traffic by the booth. I swung by the camera through it multiple times. Walking the show floor, they were only doing take-home drop-offs. And there was never more than a handful of people there every time that I walked past. I played catch-up on content riding in the car yesterday. And some of the videos that I saw, some of the people had the same idea I did. And I did not see a lot of traffic at the SGC booth in those videos either. The general, I also talked to a lot of folks, both content creators, not content creators, dealers, just kind of, you know, where their mindset is regarding SGC. The general consensus, and I'm painting with a little bit of a broad brush here, is most folks on the ultra modern side are like, I'm good. The vintage side, most folks are basically, I might not use them as much. I kind of want to see how things play out. The vintage folks don't seem as concerned about the overall value of their cards and their slabs. Maybe that's rose-colored glasses. I don't know. But that was kind of some of the general takeaways from that in regards to SGC. Modern folks aren't really having it, and the vintage folks are clinging on to life. And, you know, like I said, in multiple videos, we will see what happens with that company. Ryan Hogue, president of all grading at Collectors Universe /PSA/SGC, said in my interview that the market will essentially decide. So if there is a loyal enough customer base to keep them going, then we'll see what they look like. We'll look at gem rate numbers. It's way too soon to read too much in the gem rate numbers for SGC. That's going to take a couple of months to play itself out until we see that impact. CGC. I did a few videos at the CGC booth because I did some on-site grading with CGC. And great experience grading on site. Very affordable. I do think they're up to something. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they rattle the shark cage a little bit here in the near future. We'll see what that looks like. But I think they kind of want to try to make a play for the SGC business. Now, some interesting conversations I had specifically around SGC and specifically in regards to, let's just call it secondary market liquidity. I am friendly with some repack buyers, and it's not people that necessarily, they don't directly work for a repacker, but they buy a lot of times to sell on their own. And in some regards, some of their inventory gets spun off to various repackers. So they know what the repackers are looking for. If they can make a quick buck flipping to them, they will. It's not their primary source of income. And I had some similar experiences with this the last couple of days at the show. And how this came up was I was shopping my Judge Red Refractor that I had slabbed by CGC. My thought process was, oh, slabbed, this will be easier to move because it might make it a little bit more enticing for a repacker. At least it's basically like I'm getting a quick opinion, almost like a Beckett RCR in the CGC slab. I figured it was worth the $25 to do that. Very quickly did I learn, not a mistake, because it's so cheap to grade it and it took basically no time. It was like 6 hours I had the card back in my hand. But what I was told from the folks that I talked to that sometimes sell to the repackers is they basically don't want CGC slabs at all. They want PSA, they want Beckett, and they occasionally want SGC. But it is mostly PSA, mostly Beckett, and then a little bit of SGC sprinkled in. They don't want CGC at all. So that is going to be something that CGC is going to have to overcome. And we'll use this to lead into the PSA of it all. But that's their... CGC has two major hurdles right now. Secondary market liquidity / pricing. Their slabs don't have a ton of demand in the ultra-modern flip game, and that impacts people wanting to grade with them. And that includes the repack element. The second problem that they have is they don't have great turnaround times right now. If you go look at the blowout thread that tracks turnaround times on orders, there's a lot of people saying they are pushing well past their deadlines on bulk orders. And that was before the SGC news really hit the hobby news cycle. So even if they do pick up a lot of extra business from the SGC stuff, I don't know that they're in position to jump on it. And this, you could kind of expand this out to a larger point. The folks at the grading companies, CGC, Beckett, those are the two real competitors right now, and I'm using that term loosely for PSA. I am sure the people on the front lines and middle management, maybe even upper management, want to be like, we are the best grading company in the world. We are coming for the PSA spot, and they're going to do everything in their power that they possibly can. The question is, do the people writing the checks want that? I see a lot of people, a lot of the discourse being like, oh, so-and-so is going to come eat their lunch. So-and-so is going to catch him. Insert grading company here is going to catch PSA and knock him off. I think we forget, for that to happen, for CGC or Beckett to legit make a run at PSA, they would have to spend tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions at minimum to expand capacity, hire people, tech upgrades, the whole 9 yards. Integrations. They would have to spend a metric ton of money. Does Blackstone want to do that? They haven't showed that they want to. I haven't. What money have they really put forth publicly? What major, other than the JSA acquisition, where has Blackstone showed they're willing to invest a bunch of money into CGC? And you could insert Beckett in the same conversation. And maybe they want to, but because of the messiness of Beckett's ownership situation, maybe they can't. Does Blackstone even still want CGC? If you told me to choose one of two paths, what's the more likely? Blackstone investing a ton of money in the CGC to make a legit run at PSA, or Blackstone selling CGC? I would be willing to bet Blackstone selling CGC, and I would be willing to bet that by a wide margin, if you're just asking me. I don't know that Blackstone wants to invest the money in the CGC to make a run at PSA. Now, they might be very content with, okay, we'll throw you a little bit of money here and there to do little things here and there on the side. And same with Beckett, because you're profitable. The business is running smooth and on the rails, and we don't have to spend a ton of money to keep everything up. You guys are pretty self-sufficient. The profit margins are nice. Go do your thing, and you're forever number 2, number 3, with slight growth here or there that you're never going to see a mass investment from the corporate partners, the owners, whatever you want to call it, to really level things up. And I think that's ultimately the problem right now. I don't know that anyone actually at the ownership level, at the ones that control the purse strings, want to spend the money to make a run at PSA. Before we talk more PSA, let's mention Beckett here really quickly. Their booth, busy, not slammed, but pretty busy. They had a good sized booth, decent amount of activity over there, way busier than SGC. And I do think Beckett is up to something. I think they got a couple of things cooking. I would not be surprised if we see some announcements out of Beckett in the next 30 to 60 days. I have a pretty good idea what those are, but I haven't been able to 1000% confirm anything yet. But just saying, don't be surprised if we have a couple announcements coming out of Beckett. I don't know how big of a deal they're going to be from a community reaction standpoint, but we'll see. I think they got a couple things in the hopper. I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll circle back to it in the future. But I think they do have a couple of things coming down the pipe, so we'll see what that looks like. Beckett on the show floor. Let's talk about this for a second. And what I mean by that is not the booth, the respect of the Beckett grade / slab. People still like to buy Beckett for sure. But what I noticed, more so on the mid to upper end of things, I guess, especially stuff that I was looking at. I was looking at Kobe refractors and LeBron refractors and things like that. A lot of people are taking a hard look at Beckett cards in slabs, the subgrades, the whole 9 yards. And they are really looking at it from an aspect of, what is this going to turn into if I try to cross this to a PSA? I'll give you a perfect example of this. I was looking at a LeBron BGS 9 2003 rookie refractor. 9s have been going for 6.5 to 7.5K, depending on most recent comp is 7.5K. Everything previous to that was 6.5 to 7. There was, the last one right before the National was a little, about $500 higher. So let's just call it 7K flat. The one that I looked at, 3 9.5s and 8.5 centering. And the centering, from the best that I could tell, I took a quick glance at it, was off top to bottom. It was heavy on the top, thin on the bottom, is mostly what I saw that probably justified that grade. And I'm looking at it. PSA 9s go for about 10K-ish. PSA 8s go for like, I think 5 to 5.5K. And BGS 9s are kind of right in between those two. The problem that I saw is when I looked that card over, and I don't know that I would want to keep it in a Beckett slab, but I did not think that card had a legitimate chance to cross to a PSA 9. I really didn't. I think that card in a PSA 8 or in a PSA slab would be an 8. Maybe the weird 8.5 grade that you don't see very often. And the vibe that I got talking to folks, both dealers and people buying, is a lot of people are thinking that same way. That a lot of the cards in dealer showcases and Beckett slabs would not grade out at an equivalent grade with PSA, and that is scaring people off. A perfect example of this, my Tatum Green, my Luka Blue Mosaic are BGS 9.5 min gems, and I think min gems are getting hurt by this the most. I am not the one is borderline if it would 10 or not. The other, I don't remember which one's which. The other one, I am quite positive would be a 9, based off of a little bit of white on the back corner, which it has a 9 corner. That's the low subgrade. I think that's the Tatum green. So BGS 9.5s are almost getting treated as not quite a PSA 9, but boy, oh boy, it's trending more and more that direction by the day, especially on min gems. Those weird ones that have one lower subgrade that's dragging everything else down are really getting the side eye from folks walking the show floors and buying. I still like to buy Beckett slabs, especially if I can get a good deal on something. From a collector standpoint, I think they're one of the better cards that you could buy. But you really need to pay attention to those subs, and this is definitely a situation of buy the card, not the grade. Because I'm not going to pay a massive BGS 9 premium for a card that is most likely going to PSA 8. Even if I never plan to cross it, if I ever go to move that card, someone else is going to be thinking along the same lines, and it could be like a boat anchor around it, where it's basically going to be a negotiation point used against me for an eternity. So that was kind of one of the observations I had around Beckett. Like I said, keep your eyes on them. I do think they got a little something up their sleeves. Let's talk about the PSA of it all. I have Ryan Hogue, president at Grading, tweeted out some stats from some stuff that they did. Their booth was packed. Tons of on-site, tons of drop-offs, people submitting to the vault, the whole 9 yards. Ton going on at that PSA booth. I talked about repacks a lot in the back half of yesterday's video. One of the nefarious things that is kind of, as they've weaseled their way into all this stuff with eBay integration, all the repack stuff, whether it's the Jeff Wilson thing, or the repack verification program that is separate from Jeff, is just their first customer. That is not exclusive to Jeff. The GameStop Power Pack thing, offers, etc. Power Pack specifically, and their verified repack service that they're doing. I don't know if anyone noticed in the fine print, and it's not really that fine, but just in the descriptions for those services, it's listed as PSA cards only. So, as we know, the repack side of things is really causing a ton of liquidity in the secondary market. Since so many people are buying for the various repacks, PSA included, the fact that they are restricting their own repacks, essentially, to their own cards, which makes sense from a business standpoint, no shade, but it's also impacting the demand on the other grading companies' slabs because the repackers don't want them. And let's fast forward a little bit here. Let's pretend that PSA's certified repack program takes off and does really well. And a bunch of other bigger breakers start using it, other repackers start using it, etc. What does that mean? Well, it's going to put more demand on PSA slabs because they're PSA only graded cards, and it's going to hurt the demand of the other grading companies even more. So they're almost forcing you to grade with them to actually have liquidity with your card. Now, PSA has always been the most liquid by far, but now you're completely eliminating buyer pools just because it's not in a PSA slab. Nefarious? Yes. Brilliant? Yes. Smart business? Yes. Genius. Absolutely. It makes total sense. Of course they would do it their own slabs. Why wouldn't they? They'd be stupid not to. So PSA remains the powerhouse in the room. No surprise there. And like I said, does anyone even want the crown? Does anyone want to spend the money to get the crown off PSA? You know, there's a lot of, oh, I can't believe that we've all done this, that, they're the king of the castle. How did we get here? This is stupid. This sucks. They're a monopoly. All this nonsense. We did this to ourselves, folks. PSA spent the money, kept improving the product. What did the other grading companies do? SGC, I know, PSA went in and bought them, or Collectors Universe went in and bought them, and they were doing really well. They were getting a lot of business in the sports card things. But I imagine a big reason why they sold in the first place was because of what ended up happening anyway. I think that they knew that they maxed that business out, that they took it as far as they could take it. And if they really, really wanted to level up and really make a run at PSA, it was going to cost them a fortune to do it. And they said, this is my guess, let's just take the bag. We grew the company from this to this. This is a massive success. We now have to spend to take it to the next level. We're going to have to spend, Ryan said on the interview, tens of millions of dollars. And they were already in a pretty good spot to begin with. So maybe they said, just hitting the cash out, taking the bag, and we're done. We're good here. PSA absorbed them, and we've all seen how that's gone. But we've done this to ourselves because we pay, and when I say we, I'm talking about like the hobby at large, pays way more for a PSA graded card than a other grading company graded card. I just gave an example. A PSA 9 LeBron rookie refractor goes for like $10K. The same card in a BGS 9 is $7,000. Now the subgrades will probably impact that a little bit, but you get what I'm going for here. There's a $2K difference there. There was a card, I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was a Downtown. This was before the National. I had posted it on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Here we go. Not a Downtown. Mahomes Optic Hollow. These two cards sold very close to each other. Almost $3K. $2,700, $2,800 for the PSA 10. The same exact card. This ended on July 21st. This one sold on June 8th. Not much has happened to the Mahomes market in that month. $1,500. A $1,200 plus difference for the exact same card. This is what I tweeted. If you want to close the gap, you need to pay $2,700 for this copy of the card. It's the easiest way to do it. I don't know what else to tell you. It's that simple. It really is that simple. It's not about sending them cards. It's about the secondary market prices that they go for. That's the important part. That's what people see. That'll add liquidity to a CGC slab. That'll make the repackers take notice of CGC or Beckett or your grading company of choice. You have to be willing to pay PSA prices for non-PSA cards. Until that happens, nothing changes. Nothing changes. Simple as that. We're going long here. Let's just touch on the gem rate numbers really quick. PSA, record-breaking month. SGC, 21% drop year over year. Those are the two big things people care about. The SGC stuff is going to take a bit of time to fall out. We probably won't know until October, November, how that all plays itself out. Beckett was up quite a bit month over month, one of their better months as well to note. CGC down slightly, but up big year over year. Just to look at the individual breakdowns. Sports cards, a big bump for PSA month over month, down year over year. CGC down slightly month over month on sports. Beckett down slightly month over month on sports. Most of Beckett's growth was on the TCG side of things. Same with CGC's. SGC down slightly. PSA, over 1 million TCG cards graded again. Beckett, big bump up in TCG. I believe a small chunk of this, there was a big month for One Piece for them, so I don't know if they had some sort of tournament going on or something. I know Beckett is very active in the One Piece space. I believe tag graded just under 50K cards. I believe that is a new record for them, though do not quote me on that. And they are still 95% TCG. They don't care about sports cards at all. I saw a lot of chatter. I know Dan did a video on this the other day, and he's done a couple videos in a row on, like the death of sports card grading, essentially, because the PSA TCG numbers are so high and the year over year sports numbers, it's declining. I think there's a couple different factors here. I am not sweating this at all. We've talked about this before. Sports product releases this year have been since Prism Football, and the QC on Prism Football was trash. You had some Caitlin Clark stuff in there. For the most part, baseball product, there has not been a ton to grade. This is not the best rookie class in the world. James Wood is really good. Kurtz is obviously really good, but Kurtz specifically does not have cards on a lot of product. I think that has slowed things down. They are getting a ton of TCG volume from GameStop, shoving sports stuff out of the way. They haven't ran a sports special in months, at least a meaningful one. The other thing to keep in mind, which is this is something that I've heard quite a bit, PSA now has an office in Japan. They are grading at that office. Spoilers, the Japanese office grades a metric ton of TCG. That is also hitting the population report. So keep that in mind. So that TCG number is getting a lot of extra heat because of the Japan office. I have a sneaking suspicion if they end up ever catching back up again, we're about to get the first run of a bunch of Topps products. Topps Chrome Basketball licensed is coming in just a couple of months. Topps Chrome Football will be coming early next year. People are going to grade the hell out of that. You know how many Topps Chrome LeBron base and refractors are going to get sent in the PSA? A lot. First Lakers Topps Chrome card. Let's go. I could already see it now. People will be sending that stuff in to get graded. So I have a feeling the sports card numbers will end up just fine. And I've said this a ton of times. If they need sports cards in the door, they'll run a special and they'll get a crap ton of sports cards. They will. I'm not concerned about that at all. If they drop the price on something, if they ever get turnaround times back in line and they're ready to start running specials again, their sports card numbers will shoot right back up. Because there really is no clear number 2 right now. If you have high end and you don't want to grade with Beckett or PSA, you're probably sending it to Beckett. The middle of the road stuff is lost in limbo right now. SGC got a lot of sports business for quick flip stuff. That's out the door. Their turnaround times are getting slower, and the faith in the slab is no longer there. So who are you going to send that stuff to? Are you going to send it to Beckett? Are you going to send it to CGC? CGC has a liquidity problem. Beckett has an everything else problem. That's the interesting fight right now for number 2. Like I said, I think CGC's got a little something brewing, not as serious. I think Beckett is going to make bigger waves with their potential future announcements. But we'll see how that all shakes out. A little tease. We'll call it a little tease in the business for y'all. If I get more, I'll talk about it some more. But as of right now, that's all I am comfortable saying. That's all I got. Curious for your thoughts and comments down below on the current state of the grading world post the National. If you have any thoughts, comments, if you were at the National, any conversations that you had, feel free to fire off in the comments down below. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.